Okay, just having a look around the charts and that on where are we at? Quarter past 11 on Monday morning, just into the Asia session. So I had a bit of news. I didn't actually see when it sort of came out, but it seems to be across a couple of the feeds and that. Just from the BOJ, which I think seems to have been the main driver this morning. Just in regards to them potentially sort of, if the data supports it, um, reversing their sort of negative rates, sort of possibly by the end of the year, which I think seems to have sort of had quite a large impact on things. Certainly, if we flick across to DXY, um, I don't think we can see it on the side. Oh, here we go. Yep. So that's our start on DXY this morning. So you can see quite a sort of chunky little gap down. It did try and rally a little bit, but I think it was about 20 points or so. Yeah, so 20 points that it's dropped down. Obviously, we tried to rally up and had a couple little fluff arounds actually once sort of Asia session is sort of officially open. But yeah, it seems to be giving it up a little bit at the moment. As you can see, I've got my little price target down here because this is really based on this idea that we had this channel break. We had the negative divergence, which we can sort of see a bit more than 4 hours where we were sort of seeing this. So you can see, yeah, certainly the buying pressure is not really supporting this last sort of move to the top side. Even sort of as it broke the channel on Friday session during that sort of video there, we obviously saw that little bit of a rally and really sort of pushed up coming into the end of the week. But you're not seeing it reflected in the RSI. So that was obviously showing a little bit of sort of weak sort of buying pressure to sort of actually move the market back up. And as you can see here, we've actually got the sort of, this is our break point, and we've just retested it, and now we're sort of moving to the downside. So this is obviously not officially a lower high. Well, I suppose actually you could say, because you could say this is your high here and this is your high here, and we're selling off now. But certainly it's sort of like, you know, it's hit a sort of roadblock with this sort of resistance here. I think sort of certainly we're going to have to wait to sort of see how these ones close. But given the size of this particular channel here, um, so we can pick up a many point because it's all the same size. If we drag this across here and drag it from our break point, as you can see down here, and this is a first sort of little price target here. So I think certainly through the start of the week, we're going to see a little bit more downside on the US dollar. We've got CPI coming out for the US this week as well. So that is obviously also going to be sort of coming into play with a couple of bits and pieces. But for the moment, I think it's the BOJ comments that are really sort of pushing things, because even if we sort of had a look across at a couple of the sort of major indices, we're not seeing anything sort of particularly flying up. I've got these on another screen, so we can't sort of see these ones here, but actually, they're the sort of indices this morning. So yeah, nothing really sort of super fantastic looking here. We got ASX really sort of sold off on that open there. Obviously, the Nikkei down the bottom here, the one to sort of have a look at, sort of in relation to obviously those BOJ comments. US not really doing anything. Seeing a little bit of a negative divergence coming in here as well with the Hang Seng. So this is China. So even as you can see with this little 1 hour candle here, this is really sort of punched back up as well. But yeah, so we're sort of seeing this move a little bit further down with the continuation. So let's take a little look for this one here when we sort of take out that. Obviously, we've had a couple of sort of pushes down here on Friday session, which is sort of pushed back up, but yeah, that's fine. Cool. Flip across Aussie. So, I can't remember which chart I was actually working off. Too many multiple charts with these. So this is as per the sort of weekend video. These were the two possible outcomes we were looking at from here. As so with my video, this was the first outcome here was what I was kind of leaning towards, obviously based off the RSI almost sort of leveling out, about to sort of turn to the top side here. The fact that we'd sort of revisited these lows, but the sells hadn't actually pushed right down into that oversold area. I had a feeling that this was potentially going to come turn up this. Obviously, this news is helping push this in this direction. But certainly at the moment, it's looking quite strong on Asia Open with that DXY sort of sell off. Again, I understand that Aussie isn't part of the DXY, but certainly DXY I use just as a risk barometer. So we can sort of see that that's actually sort of seeing a couple of people move away from the US dollar broadly. And obviously with that, you're going to see a little bit of reprieve in the Aussie as well. So it seems to be moving. If we flick onto the 1 hour here, we can see we obviously sort of shot up here. We've sort of hit a little bit of a resistance, but we're trying to move out to the top side here. Really, this wick from Friday session at 64.14.15, that's where we were sort of going to want to get on top side of. 64.50 is still the sort of first sort of price target. I retested these ones here, and then I imagine sort of a little bit of back and forth. If we can get a retest and then break of that 64.50, obviously up in this main resistance up over here, around the sort of high 64s to 65, that would be the next price target. If we can sort of obviously do a little bit of a back test and see some continuation with a retake out of wherever these highs do get. This is all obviously also predicated on the idea that we do actually take out these wicks to the top side here, because as we know, Aussie has been incredibly weak on a fundamental level and certainly on a technical level, so there's no guarantees of this, but this is just what we're planning for at the moment. Gold, same similar sort of thing as per the sort of weekend video. We were seeing these slightly high lows coming in this morning. Actually gapped up a little bit this morning, and then immediately sort of sold into. So where's the session here? I can't really see around this one here, but yeah, we had a small little gap up, sell down immediately, and as you can see, we're actually taking out sort of the intraday highs at the moment. So you want to see a sort of continuation. If we can see a solid sort of bullish candle that can close up above this 1920 level, then we can start to look at sort of a couple of those levels. Obviously, we were sort of ranging quite heavily in this 24 to 26 range last week, and as we sort of said with the video, these were the levels that we were looking for, and as you see, it comes up, clips it, and then that was a horrible sort of sell-off to sort of close the week. I think a lot of people sort of would have got stopped out on those ones there. But again, this is just how gold plays. And again, if we sort of rehash this last one, where we broke from this large channel down here, there was the fake move, there was a break, moved up, closed up here, and then bang, slammed down again. So it's just what gold tends to do. And as we can see now, slam back down, starting to move up. But certainly I think that, again, that close over 28, sort of throughout this zone here, if we can get a close up around sort of 30 to 31, I think that's enough to sort of confirm that, okay, we've got a short-term base around these levels, and then we're going to be starting to look back up around a retest of these sort of like 45 to 46. So I think certainly if we can get if we can get a close around here, so a little way off in that. Asia's generally pretty quiet for gold movements. You get about a $5 range, I tend to find, in Asia. Occasionally you get those sessions where they sort of punch up a little bit more and you get a little bit more volume deciding to sort of come through the markets, but generally a $5 range seems to be about where sort of the max of what sort of gold will do through Asia. Okay, so we flip across to China. China, again, in line with everything on Friday, well, USD strength at least, punched right out. And as I was saying, this is certainly, it's putting in some big, not sort of extreme, sort of big high new highs, but certainly higher than it has been as we sort of went back through the data and that. So for quite some time, if ever. But I still am looking that even if we do get a slight continuation to the top side, that this wedge pattern will be sort of playing out. So I wouldn't be too sort of keen. I mean, you've got the RSIs tipped into this overbought zone now. As you can see, obviously early sort of Asia session, and that we're seeing a little bit of a pullback, but you need to sort of be taking out these lower wicks on the previous day. You need to be taking out those previous wicks on the bottom from the previous day to sort of actually go, okay, now we might be seeing a little bit of a downside. So there's certainly no reason, particularly without this one having a top wick, without this D1 candle having a top wick, there's no reason this can't just be a bottom wick forming to then sort of come up and flip and then push through to the top side. So, beautiful. Again, my sort of theory or plan with this is still to sort of see a revisit of this main trend whenever we do actually get this. So we'll just have to sort of wait and see sort of how long this takes. I mean, as I said, look, these things can sort of drift sideways for a number of days or weeks and that. I don't think we're going to get an explosion up to sort of 750 plus and that at this stage. But I think this sort of top wick and this sort of wedge pattern will be the sort of predominant thing coming into play here. Copper, again, so copper actually has been charting really well. And if you followed the videos, I've been charting this last move from the break of the wedge from the downside here. Both price targets got taken out perfectly, as you can see. It's pulling back, it's coming back into this main rising support along here. We're seeing quite a sort of bit of an early push, and again, this is in line with the US dollar sort of selling off, as I said over the videos over the weekend. It could, as I said, I thought there'd be a little bit of fluffing around here. Obviously, I've got my sort of support zone a little bit lower than where we currently are. Not to sort of say that it can't rally a little bit earlier, particularly if we do get a harder sort of sell off on the US dollar, but certainly it is really making use of this triangle right to the very, very tip. And as we keep sort of saying, I mean, this is back from March 22. The base is coming in from July 22. So both of these highs and lows to sort of like initiate this triangle, which we're getting 5 touch-ups on each here, right to the very tip. Yeah, both are over to 12 months. So, and a fair bit over 12 months as well. So it's certainly coming to a very pivotal point through the tip here. I mean, these things can obviously still dribble out to the other side of it all, but I would say, where have we got? Sort of October 12th. So I would say probably over the next month, we're really going to start to see what's going to be happening long term, because this break, I feel, will be sort of quite significant. And if we get an explosion with the US dollar, then obviously we're going to be seeing these downside moves while sort of that risk sentiment sort of goes off and everybody sort of pulls back a little bit. But there's also a little bit of news out this morning just regarding sort of downside, limited downside for the yuan, at least in the short term, with a bit of economic recovery supposedly planned. But we'll see. And then, of course, you know what I mean. If China's recovering, then manufacturing is going to be going up. Well, then you're doing manufacturing, they're going to be using more copper. Demand's going to be going up. Price is going to appreciate. That's just how that's going to work. Cool. And I think that's pretty much it from me for now. We've done China, DXY, Aussie, and copper. Beautiful. All right. We'll see how the rest of the day sort of plans out. That's about it from me.